You're a live streamer and you're getting ready to buy the Rodecaster Pro. But before you do, you notice this. The Zoom Podtrak P8. And oh, by the way, it has 2 more Xlr inputs and an extra sound pad. And it's $100 less. Now what? Okay, so this video is for the live streamers. The last thing that I had in my setup, I had my camera, I had my microphone, got the lights, got the studio the way I want it. But the one thing that I was saving up for was the Rodecaster Pro. I had used it for a podcast that I do at work. I loved the machine. It was wonderfully and beautifully made. I loved how simple it was to operate. It was great. So I was saving up for this, and as I was just about ready to go ahead and buy it, and I happened to notice, as you saw earlier, the Zoom Podtrak P8. And what I noticed about it were 2 things. Number one, as you can see in the picture there, it had 2 more Xlr inputs compared to the Rodecaster Pro. And number 2, and more importantly, it was $100 less. All right, that got my attention. So I went to YouTube to start looking at anybody that had done reviews between the 2, and the most dominant thing was the 44.1 kilohertz was the knock on the Podtrak P8. Hey, it's $100 cheaper. All this stuff is great, but it only records in 44.1 kilohertz. Well, to me, first hearing that, I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, the Rodecaster Pro records in 48 kilohertz. That is Blu-ray quality audio. That's TV production quality audio. Does that apply to me as a live streamer who sits in my house, in my studio, and live streams to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and uploads the audio copy to Anchor FM to a podcast there, Coffee at the Cross? Does that apply to me? So I started leaving comments in everyone's videos. Hey, will this be an issue for me if I'm just a live streamer? And all of them had said, I didn't test it for that, so I don't really know. It shouldn't give you problems, but no one could just say, doesn't give you problems. Go ahead and go. So I went ahead and ordered it. I went ahead and bought it, brought it in, and I was going to test it. I already have the Rodecaster Pro to compare it to, so that's what this video is about. If you are a live streamer, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, I'm going to go over the things I love about what it makes it easier for me to do those things. And if that 44.1 kilohertz affected me at all while doing my podcast. So that's what we're going to talk about. So first and foremost, I just have to say, when I bought the Zoom Podtrak P8 and it came in the mail and I opened the box, the first thing that I noticed that it didn't have that you're going to need is a USB-C cable. I actually had some spares laying around. I already had some, so I was able to just snatch it up and plug it in. If you don't have any extra, make sure you order one along with this device, because once you get it, you're not going to be able to connect this to your computer if you're using this as an audio interface for your live stream. Other than that, it comes with an AC adapter and it comes with the Podtrak itself. You open it up, the first thing I noticed, other than that it was missing the USB-C cable, was the size. It's smaller. Just kind of show you the difference in size. I mean, you've seen it on the other videos. They're like 2 inches difference. So my Rodecaster Pro, you could see the box. Just in the box alone, you can see the difference. So why is that important? Well, if you're traveling, like I go on a mission trip once a year. So when I do go, my luggage space is precious. Luggage space is precious. So it is significantly smaller. It's like 2 inches smaller, and it's way lighter. So when you're trying to pack your bags and you're trying to stay under the 50-pound weight limit of your luggage, your carry-on, whatever it is, it takes up less space and it weighs less. So that was also a bonus for me. What else did I notice about it? Well, the fact that it has 6 Xlr inputs. I've done a podcast where we have up to 6 people. This would allow me to do that podcast with all 6. What I had to do when we were using the Rodecaster Pro is we had 2 sets of people that had to share a microphone. And you can get away with that. But one of the problems I had were some people would lean back and talk from here, and some people would be up close. So while that's fine, you could still hear someone from back here. Just as, and you could hear someone from here. The difference in audio as you're having a conversation back and forth, it can be a distraction. So that's something I wanted to avoid. Here you can see there's the 6 XLR inputs here. If you'll notice, there is a dedicated USB mode. You can see the switch right here. You can go from dynamic microphone to condenser microphone, which is phantom powered for like your SM7B microphone users out there, and then also your USB mode. And what that does is when you put it in USB mode, it allows you to use your computer for Zoom or Skype to do an interview. And when you have it in that mode, it brings the audio into the Podtrak P8 mix. Also, it has a dedicated channel for your phone, which you see right here. So you can plug your phone in. That's awesome. Another thing that's really great, especially if you've done interviews or live stream podcasts with guests, it has mix minus feature for both of these channels. So that way the caller doesn't get the echo or feedback. They're not hearing themselves in the mix. So that is really cool. One of the other things that I love about this is you see here the orange lights. These are on-air buttons. Why is that important? Well, if you're in a podcast with 4 or 5 people, all you have to do, if you want to talk to somebody, like you can't just get up. Let me try and get another scene here. So you can't just stand up and go over and whisper in someone's ear and say, hey, we're getting ready to go do this. Or realistic moment, we were doing the little nitro gummy bear challenge, you know. So you want to be able to communicate. Are you okay? Are you doing good? Are you good to continue? These are things you want to be able to talk to somebody, but you don't want the audience to hear it. When you push and select the on-air button and turn that off, as you're going to find out right now, and what I just said is when I turn that, you can't hear anything that I'm saying. However, the people that are in the podcast with you that have headphones can still hear you through the mic. So I can have a conversation with someone else in the podcast by turning that off and just saying, hey, you know, we're getting ready to talk about this, or we're getting ready to ask this question, or hey, we're getting ready to go to this guest, have your questions ready. But the audience wouldn't hear that. So you're able to communicate with each other on the podcast without the audience hearing that. That's a really awesome feature. Okay, the other thing, Bluetooth capability. You'll notice on the Rodecaster Pro, one of the awesome things about it is it has built-in Bluetooth capability. This little blue button right here. Your phone can connect to it via Bluetooth, and you can have a conversation. Someone can call you on your phone, and you can have them as a guest via their phone, and you don't need any wires. So it's a really awesome feature. The Zoom Pod, I'm going to pull this back out here for a second. The Zoom Podtrack P8 does not come with that. It's not built in. So the only option you have is to use a TRRS cable plugged from your phone, plug it into there, and you can get the phone call through here. However, you can buy this little adapter right here, and you saw, there it is. It is the BT, let me see if I can get it zoomed in right there. There you go, the Zoom BTA2. As an adapter, and you can see on the back, it's got the 2 plugs that fit right there. So this is a $50 accessory. So even if you buy this, and now you're spending another $50, so now you're at $550. You are still $50 below the cost of the the Rodecaster Pro, but you plug that in, and now your phone is now Bluetooth connected to your Podtrak P8. So you're still have the same feature there. You had to buy an accessory, but you're still $50 under. But there's still more money you're going to save by going with this over the Rodecaster Pro, and we'll get to that too. All right, so also the sound pads. We have one extra sound pad here. The Rodecaster Pro has 8 and also has different sound banks. The Zoom Podtrak P8 has 9, and it has 4 banks in there, so you have 36 pre-recorded sound effects that you can add to your content to make you sound or help you to sound professional. Very awesome. You can also change the colors to these. Let me see here if we can get a closer view. You can change the colors on these. When you hit that red button there, you'll get another screen, and on that screen, you'll be able to change things, including the color of the sound pad. That way, you can identify different songs. Hey, you could use all the colors in here. You can use red, blue, yellow, green, 5 or 6 different colors in there. So really awesome feature there to help you distinguish between the buttons along with the letters. As you can see, they're all labeled A, B, C, and D. So you can have like a little notepad, which one is which, or you can go by the color. The other thing, 6 headphone inputs right here that you can see. But what is really cool about that is that they are 3.5 millimeter inputs. Now, if you're like me, you're on a budget, you're not one of those mega streamers with 25 million subscribers or 2 million subscribers, and you're trying to really squeeze your budget, it can really start to add up when you have to buy 6 sets of headphones, 6 microphones, 6 cords and cables. It adds up. So the fact that you have 3.5 instead of 1/4 inch, the more expensive microphones are 1/4 inch. But when you're trying to go cheap like I did and trying to get quality for cheap, I mean, I bought these headphones for like 20, 25 bucks. I think it was like $25. And they, to me, sound better than a $100 set of headphones that I was using. I love them. So, but the problem was it was 3.5 millimeter. Why is that a problem? Well, in the Rodecaster Pro, they're 1/4 inch jacks. So you got to buy an adapter to plug the 3.5 into and then into the back. Not a problem, you say? Well, that's another fail point. You're now adding another device, another connection that can go bad, and it's happened to me 2 or 3 times now where I've been plugged in with that adapter, and the adapter would just the inner parts of the adapter would get loose, and you'd have to put pressure on it to get audio. And I've actually had one actually just conk out on me in the middle of the podcast. Anytime you can eliminate a connection, another piece, another fail point, as I like to call it, that's a bonus. If you're trying to squeeze every penny you can out of your podcast and you got to buy 6 sets of headphones, most of them are going to have the 3.5 millimeter jack. So the fact that the Podtrak P8 has the 3.5, hey, that's less accessories you got to buy. You don't have to buy 4 1/4 inch adapters if you're in the Rodecaster Pro in order to get it to fit in there. And it's 4 less places that your audio can fail you in the middle of a podcast. Everything fails in time. So I loved that. Okay, other thing, the preamps for these headphones are amazing. Let me just tell you, I had no idea with the Rodecaster Pro when I was using it, but there was a little hiss. And you kind of heard that in some of the other reviews for it. Just a small hiss, but it never really bothered me. Didn't really even notice it. I never noticed it until I plugged in my headphones in, and how quiet and how crisp. There's no hiss. It's just dead silent. I feel like I'm back in a DJ studio, soundproofed, and you can hear every little nuance of your voice, of every sound, of every clip that you're doing. It's completely quiet. It's awesome. So the preamps on the Podtrak P8 are amazing. Absolutely love them. Next, editing options. You can edit your clips and your podcast from right here on this interface right here. It's really cool how you can do that. If you're uploading audio clips into your sound pads, one of my songs had like a 3-second delay before it started. It was 3 seconds of silence. But rather than have to take it out, put it back in my computer and edit it there, I was able to get in here and just snip off the first 3 seconds of that audio clip. And as you can see, I'm getting ready to do here. 1, 2, 3, push. So as you can see, that audio was like right there. My soundbite, my intro song just kicked right in immediately. It didn't do that. It had 3-second gap. I was able to edit that right out with the editing right here on the screen. Super convenient, very awesome. You can also, through that interface, transfer your files back to your computer. So that is awesome. Full-size SD card. That is huge. Like the Rodecaster Pro, it's a mini SD card. Wasn't really, a bummer, but it's another piece that you have to have, another piece that you have to carry. So if you got that and you're using the $20 to $50 headphones with the 3.5 millimeter jacks, with the 1/4 inch adapters, those are accessories that you got to store and tote with you and not lose and not leave behind as you're going from location to location. And here, you don't have to carry that little adapter that the mini SD has to fit into in order to pull it from your Rodecaster Pro and put it in your computer in order to upload your content. So with the Podtrak P8, it's the regular size. I can pull it out, plug it in. I don't need an extra piece. And if you're traveling and you're doing podcasts, the less pieces you have to carry, the less pieces you have to worry about misplacing, getting damaged, all those things. So that is a bonus. I love that. On the Podtrak P8, what I love about it, it powers your Podtrak. You don't need to have an AC adapter, even though it comes with one. The minute you plug this into a computer on the Podtrak P8, the computer powers it up on its own. That's one less thing you got to worry about. That's one less plug you got to worry about. If you're in a studio and you got surge protectors under your desk, that's one less plug that you have to take up. So that is cool. I love that. Also has batteries. It's battery operated. You could plug 4 AA batteries into this thing, whether it's regular or lithium. It does make a difference. You can go up to 2 hours. You can go longer with lithium batteries. But the fact is, we can plug batteries in there, and you don't have to have power anywhere. And that's something I really like, because when I go on a missions trip, sometimes you're going in locations where they're not going to have power. So I'll be able to sit this down, plug everything in, power it up, and get like a 15-minute podcast where we can really share an experience that we just saw or just went through while it's still fresh, while it's still raw. I love that. So those are all the positive things that I really, really love about the Podtrack P8. Not everything is perfect, so we're going to go over the negatives. The build quality. The Rodecaster Pro, again, it looks beautiful. It's a great look. I love it in the background, the black and it's just great looking, and it's well built. It's very solid. You can hear that. I mean, it's hard metal. You could knock somebody out with this thing. It's also a great defense weapon in the field. You can just tell when you're toting this around that it's going to be able to take a beating. The Podtrack P8 is plastic. Now, is that a negative for me? Absolutely not. Why? Well, it's not going to move from my desk except for maybe once a year when I go on this missions trip. Every other time, it's going to be sitting on my desk. It's not going to move. It's not going to matter whether it's built out of metal or plastic. It's going to last years in this environment the way it's sitting. Number two, the gray. I mean, some people like the gray over the black. I like the black, but guess what? You're not where I have this thing set up. I have it set up over here. It's out of sight where I can reach it, and it's a good spot. So, Harris Heller, if you ever watch his show, Alpha Gaming, he always tells you if you're going to spend money on your podcast, the most important money you spend is what enhances the experience for the viewer, for the audience. If it's out of the camera, what does it matter if it's black, purple, green, yellow? If it gives you great audio and enhances the audio quality of your podcast and the experience for the viewer, then that's money well spent. So it's a waste of money to get something, to me, that has lesser quality audio. And in my opinion, that's where it stands. I love the quality audio on this Podtrack P8 compared to the Rodecaster Pro. I love the preamps on this. So it's not, the aesthetics are just, it's not important. So it's just a wash. It's not important. The buttons on the control you see right here. So if you're doing an audio only podcast and you're recording directly into the Podtrack P8, when you push these buttons, you can hear them. Once a year, I'm going to do a podcast where I'm going to be recording directly into this thing. Things change, you never know, but the way I have it planned, the way I have my mission statement for this device right here, I'm going to use it once a year for audio only. So 360 days out of the year, it's going to be sitting here. I'm never going to use these buttons. So pointless. Don't need it. I'm going to be using my OBS or my Ecamm Live software for start recording. The Bluetooth adapter is separate, so you got to buy that separate. But again, you're $50 under. One of the things I noticed when I first took it out of the box is I tried to plug it into my computer right away through the USB-C hub that I had. It didn't recognize it right away. I actually had to go to a cord where it was USB-C to USB-C, plug it in. It connected, it recognized it. I went back a few minutes later to try it again with the original setup, and it did work. It didn't work the first time, but it worked the third time. So it doesn't recognize them all right away, so that you may need to plug it directly into your device, not a USB-C hub, your first time plugging it in order to get your computer to recognize it. After that point, once it's in there, it recognizes it through the hub. Also, the 44.1 kilohertz versus the 48 kilohertz. It does not affect the normal live streamer. Like I said, did a 10-minute live stream. The audio, to me, was better than I've had on the Rodecaster Pro. Why was it better? I'm going to show you right now. The gain on the Podtrack P8 is amazing. It's amazing. The Rodecaster Pro gives you 50 decibels of gain. So what does that mean? When I was using my Rode Pod mic, I would always have my fader maxed out. What happens when you max it out? You get that kind of like that hiss. You get some extra noise in your sound that you don't want. So you never really want to be maxed out ever on any of your faders or any of your channels. You want to be under that. So I had to be maxed out in order to get audio. Right now on the Podtrack P8, there's 70 decibels of gain, 70 dBs of gain on this device. That is amazing. Right now, I am at 70%. 70%. What happens when I beef this thing all the way up? Just the room that I have. Here we go. That is full blast. I am now talking in a library voice. Okay, I'm going to go to a whisper. Hello, this is a whisper. Now listen to the sound as I back up. I am now 1 foot away from the microphone. 2 feet away from the microphone. 3 feet away from the microphone. The range that this thing has and the gain that it has is amazing. Why is that important? Well, now that we got that back to normal, I have the Rode Pod mic, but there are a lot of people out there that have the Shure SM7B, which is a condenser mic that is gain hungry. So if you have an SM7B and you are getting ready to buy the Rodecaster Pro as your live stream audio interface, it's not going to be enough by itself. So you're spending $600 on this compared to $500 on the Podtrack. But if you're buying this, you are going to have to buy a cloud lifter in order to get your SM7B audio right. It's not going to have enough gain in here. So now you got to spend another $100, $150 on a gain amplifier in order for your SM7B to sound like it's supposed to. So if you've invested $400 in a microphone and then you go and spend $600 on the Rodecaster Pro, now you got to go spend another $100 to $150 on a gain amplifier. You don't have to do that with the Podtrak P8. It comes with 70 decibels of gain. Your Shure SM7B will work wonderfully, beautifully, sound awesome on this. So you now saved yourself. You think about it. If you're not going to do the Bluetooth capability, you just buy it as it is. You saved $100 there, $100 to $150 by not having to buy the amplifier. You've now given yourself $250 that you would have had to have invested by buying the Rodecaster Pro. You can put that towards a camera if you're trying to upgrade, towards a lens you're trying to upgrade, another microphone if you're trying to upgrade. There's all kinds of things that I mean we all can think of that you could use to upgrade your studio or your podcast. You can hire an editor to edit your videos for $250. So there's all kinds of ways that $250 is precious, precious gold that you could invest that money in. So that's one thing that I really, really love about the Podtrak P8 is the 70 decibels of gain and the money it saves you by the equipment you don't have to buy that you would have to buy with the Rodecaster Pro. So in the end, would I rate like the build quality negative? I rate this as 8 out of 10 in build quality because it is plastic. But like I said, it's not an issue for me because it's going to sit here. It's going to sit still. I'm not going to be beating and banging on it and toting it everywhere, so it just doesn't matter. So build quality, 8 out of 10. The Rodecaster Pro, I give it 9 out of 10 because the sliders that are on the Rodecaster Pro feel more flimsy than the Podtrak P8. Faders are very firm, and you feel like you have more control, even though the sliding range is shorter. They're just so tiny. But you just don't. You feel like you have more control over the little itty bitty adjustments as you would these big sliders with the flimsy. You just feel like it's just kind of loosey goosey. So I love that. All right. So overall, I rate the Rodecaster Pro 9 out of 10. The Podtrak P8, I rate 9 out of 10. Different reasons. What sets this back is the build quality, but it doesn't matter for me. What sets this back is all the extra money that you have to put into this thing in order to get it to sound the way this sounds. Now, again, it's not 48 kilohertz, so when I'm talking about sound, I'm talking about for the live streamer, the YouTubers, the Facebookers, the Twitch. For that, it's a moot point. So I love the Podtrak P8. If you're kind of going back and forth on it and you're trying to save money and you're just a live streamer, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And the money you save, you can put somewhere else. You can't go wrong either way. You're going to love them both. You're going to absolutely love them both. But if I had a choice, and I did, I went this way, and I went this route, and I'm absolutely 100% pleased with this device. All right, so thank you for watching the video. Go get yourself an interface. Get podcasting. Put some content out there. Be happy. Happy streaming. And put some positivity in somebody's life by putting something out there that you just can't stop talking about and share it with someone else. All right, thank you. I'm Mike Newman, and this was the video for the Podtrak P8.